And then the flow of goods in a manufacturer. This is important to know. We got 3 different types, and we'll just draw these out on the draw erase board. So we have raw materials. We're going to be purchasing products to make whatever. We use that example of teddy bear. So we might have our thread, we might have our cotton, all these different things. We're just going to purchase these from whatever supplier we have, and they come into a big warehouse where we store them just on the shelves as raw materials. Now, as they begin production, here's our people on the production line, and they're working and they're building the teddy bears. As we take raw materials out of our actual warehouse and begin the production on the production line, that goes into work in process. We call it WIP. You'll hear that all the time. So work in process. These are, example here, let's just draw a little teddy bear, and right now it's only got its head and its arms attached. That's a horrible drawing, but you get it there. So, it's not completed yet. We haven't attached, the hair and the legs and all these different things. So it's just in work in process. Once we finish our work in process, once everything is done, we move it over to finished goods. Okay, so here we have our full teddy bear with the hair and everything going on. It's a finished good. Now, all 3 of these, the thing you need to know, all 3 of these, raw materials, WIP, finished goods, these are all inventory accounts that show up on the balance sheet. They're just different types. So you'll see an inventory heading, and you'll say, how much is in raw materials, how much is in work in process, how much is in finished goods. Now, remember, like we said a minute ago, we're not just breaking apart the raw materials. As we begin work in process here, we're accumulating our costs and WIP for not just the raw materials, but the direct labor associated with this actual production, and then the overhead. All of these go into WIP, and then when we finish it, it's transferred to finished goods. So we have all of our product costs that are rolling through our inventory accounts here. What happens once it's sold? Well, it's on the balance sheet now in finished goods. Once it's sold, it goes to cost of goods sold. So it's removed from the balance sheet and taken to cost of goods sold on the income statement. Now let's look at the difference between materials, labor, and overhead. The last thing that I have for you, I think, in chapter 14. We'll draw this out. Materials, labor, overhead. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, these 3 different costs. Now all of these together, like we said a minute ago, are product costs. They're all going to go into how much we assign as the cost of our inventory that we're making, okay? So once this cost is sold, we're taking it to finished goods, but all of these are product costs going into the cost of the inventory. And also, we need to know whether these are prime costs or conversion costs. These are key things that you want to know. The book has a great Venn diagram on page 604, but essentially our prime costs are things that are directly associated with the manufacture of the goods. So when we looked a minute ago about whether it's a direct or indirect cost, these 2 are the direct costs, and we call those prime. Okay? Another way to look at this is not as whether it's a prime cost or not, but whether it's a conversion cost. So we bought all these materials earlier, but what does it take to convert these to our actual product? So now we got our labor and our overhead. How much does it cost to convert our materials into something that we can sell at a higher amount? These are our conversion costs, labor and overhead there. So whether it's prime cost, materials and labor, or whether it's conversion cost, labor and overhead, make sure you know those, because you'll hear those definitions of prime and conversion as we go forward. So those are the things in chapter 14. We're just like looking at concepts and how we classify costs, because those will be really relevant for us as we go forward. Make sure you understand each one of those. We'll just talk about them in the discussion forum. Last thing I wanted to do was give you a devotional for the week. The book that I picked is by N.T. Wright. Sometimes you'll hear him called Tom Wright. It's called Simply Christian, Why Christianity Makes Sense. Hopefully some of you have in the past read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. This is a modern book that's been compared to Mere Christianity. What Wright does is he basically says, regardless of whether or not you come to this book with any knowledge of Christianity before, whether you're a Christian or not, he basically writes a logical apologetic of why it actually makes sense. It's more of a rational book. A lot of times you hear experiential. faith, something that you feel in your heart, and then you'll hear cognitive faith, something that you know in your head. The best way to approach it is, both head and heart. I graduated from Asbury Seminary, where they have a motto where head and heart go hand in hand, talking about, we have our head and our heart bringing it together, what we know and what we believe in our heart, and then bringing hand in hand to bringing that to fulfillment in the kingdom, through service, those type of things. But in this book, you can pick it up regardless of whether or not you have a lot of history in the church or history in your faith, and just kind of see the logical arguments that he makes of why Christianity is a solid place to put your faith. And if you have a chance to read this, whether now in this workshop or the next two, or after the conclusion of the course, I hope you drop me a line and let me know what you thought about it, and we can discuss it at that point. But Simply Christian by N.T. Wright, there's a little link there to the Amazon link, so you could look at it and read about it there if you want. But anyway, I will see you in the discussion forum for more discussion on Workshop 1, and see you next time for the video for Workshop 2. Thanks.